Across Canada, there have been over 7,400 cases of COVID-19, and the last report I saw 89 deaths. In Prince Edward Island today, we have 3 new positive COVID-19 cases, and this brings our total to 21. All 3 cases are related to international travel, and all have been self-isolating since their return. One is a male in his 20s and 2 females, one in her 30s and one in her 40s. Again, examples of how important self-isolating immediately after any travel outside the province is. I also want to take a moment to clarify some information that was reported by the Canadian press this morning. There have been no deaths in our province yet. All these cases are at home, and we continue to monitor and follow up our cases and contacts as we move forward. Close to 800 tests have been done, and although some are pending, we have a number of those back, and we anticipate being able to increase our testing capacity here in Prince Edward Island. It's a reminder that anyone experiencing symptoms related to COVID-19, cough, shortness of breath, fever, fatigue, chills, should call 811 to be screened and, if necessary, tested for COVID-19. And those admitted to a hospital with influenza-like illness will also be tested. And in both situations, it's regardless of travel. And it's because although we've not seen any cases of community transmission here in PEI, across the country, there are more and more cases of community transmission, and we're trying to identify cases as early as we can. I want to briefly mention a question that has come up about when someone has COVID-19, whether they should use ibuprofen or acetaminophen, and that guidance has changed, and both are appropriate to use for symptoms for COVID-19. And it's probably worth mentioning, just because we get questions about it. There's lots of research going on across the country and across the world about treatment of COVID-19, and certainly the vaccine research world as well. I wanted to follow up yesterday in terms of enforcement. There was a police officer and a conservation officer who's helping us with enforcement issued a written warning, and then this morning Summerside Police followed up and issued a ticket with a fine, the first offense being $1,000. And this is the first fine issued in Prince Edward Island for not complying with self-isolation. And as of last evening, 60 complaints have been received into our office and have resulted in written and verbal warnings for many of those cases. We've seen a lot of traffic, certainly, on our island roads, and it's just a reminder to please stay home as much as possible and go out when it's essential, or if you're an essential worker traveling to and from your place of employment. We've had a number of questions about disinfecting groceries. And for islanders who are not in self-isolation, one essential trip out of the house is going to be going for groceries. And one member of the household should be designated to go grocery shopping, and this should be limited. So try not to shop every day. It's a good idea to bring along disinfecting wipes to clean your shopping cart, not just the handle, but any area that may have come in contact with other shoppers. And try to choose items that are wrapped and that can be easily wiped clean with a disinfectant wipe. And when it comes to fruit and vegetables, washing them with soap and water when you get home. Avoid touching your face while shopping and on your route home. And wash your hands or use a hand sanitizer as soon as you get home. Another trip out is for essentials is going for gas, and touching a gas pump is similar to touching other surfaces that could be infected, and it's important you avoid touching your face after touching a gas pump, and afterwards important to wash your hands or use a hand sanitizer. We've been receiving many questions and concerns regarding individuals traveling to Prince Edward Island to summer homes or cottages. And unless your primary residence is on Prince Edward Island, you should consider delaying coming to your cottage in PEI until at least the end of May or until the COVID situation changes. I want to clarify that there should be no faith-based gatherings in person in Prince Edward Island. And although it's difficult, we're getting reports of a number of teenagers who are driving around, many together in cars. And this would not be considered essential, and they should stay home as much as possible. I know this is a difficult time for everyone, and I recognize that individuals are looking for ways to brighten spirits and connect and help each other, and there have been so many great examples across the province of doing just this and doing it differently. And we have to balance some of those examples with key principles of staying at home as much as possible and practicing physical and social distancing. This is a time when I worry we may start to get tired of staying home and tired of being physically distant with each other. Yet this is just when we need to continue. The best thing we can do right now to protect ourselves, protect our loved ones, and to protect our whole island is to continue staying home and practicing physical distance. COVID-19 is affecting people all over the world, and no one should feel they're immune to this, even if we live here in Prince Edward Island. Our lives have all changed, and they've changed quickly. We have asked you to change our behaviors, our work, our lives in ways I worry will have long-term impacts. But I ask us to continue to change, knowing that if we don't physically distance, self-isolate, more of us will get sick, and more people will end up in hospital, and our healthcare system will not be able to manage with the numbers of those who will be ill with COVID-19 and those who need care in hospital for non-COVID related reasons. So we all have an important role to play.
COVID-19 presents a number of challenges, new challenges, compared to other extreme situations or emergencies that we have faced. Most importantly, it's because COVID-19 requires physical distancing, which keeps us from interacting with each other in person, an action that is very important in teaching. In spite of this, we need to keep our children learning. The Department of Education and Lifelong Learning has been working closely with the school boards, both English and French, as well as teachers and principals to identify what we need to know, what we need to do now with the resources that we have to support our children learning while they're at home. I want Island parents and teachers and students to know that we are working to strike the right balance to ensure students are supported, that teachers have the necessary academic tools, and that families are not overwhelmed. We also know that schools are more than just places where our children learn. For many, schools are a sanctuary, where some of our children get their first meal of the day, an important step to help them learn, and where children can reach out when needed to counselors to confide in or get help from. While Minister Trivers will speak more to this in a few moments, I want Island parents, teachers, and students to know that we are putting measures in place to ensure access to these important supports will continue. We are all in this together. I want to assure you that we will get through this together, and we will continue to work side by side to create solutions that support families and children. And just before I pass things over to Minister Trivers, I do have an important message for the high school class of 2020. We don't know what these next weeks and months will look like. And I know that this is not how you envisioned your grade 12 year. I know that this is the time where you are preparing to make decisions on what you'll do next year, what school you may go to, or what journey you may embark on as you take the next steps in your lives. But to the class of 2020, I promise you this. You will be afforded the same privilege of having a prom and a graduation ceremony as every class that went before you and every class that will come after you. Some of my fondest memories are from 30 years ago as part of the 1990 class at Montague High School. Both prom and graduation provided me the opportunity to reflect on my successes, to prepare me for the future, and to celebrate important friendships, many which continue to this very day. I will not allow COVID-19 to rob you, the class of 2020, of these important celebrations. They may occur at a different time, they may look a little bit differently, but I promise you that you will look back on these celebrations, as we are all fortunate to do, for the rest of your lives, and to be reminded of the people, the moments, and the smiles that make high school some of the best years of your life. And with that, I'll pass it over to Minister Trivers.
Well, thank you, Premier. And first of all, I wanted to talk about emergency childcare services for our essential workers. So in partnership with the Early Childhood Development Association, we have been working with the early learning and childcare workforce to respond to the critical need for childcare services for essential workers. And under the direction of Dr. Heather Morrison and her team at the Chief Public Health Office, health and safety protocols are in place for centres that will be opening their doors. I want to give a huge thank you to the Early Childhood Development Association and the hundreds of early childhood professionals, as well as department staff, who have been engaged in this process, and to the centres and their staff who have stepped up to help. Childcare services for essential workers will begin this week and will continue to grow as centres are ready to go. Centre-based childcare will be provided for children over 2 who are not immunocompromised. Alternatively, for those children, in-home childcare will be supported for these children and families. So staff have been in touch with essential workers who have indicated they need childcare, and we will continue to work directly with them to respond to their needs. Again, I want to send a thank you to the early childhood professionals and the ECDA who are working tirelessly with us to ensure childcare is provided to our essential workers during this very challenging time. Next, I wanted to talk about home learning. And as well here, I want to say a thank you to parents, students, and staff who have already been hard at work helping children learn at home over the last couple of weeks. We can appreciate that parents, students, and teachers have a lot of questions regarding how school closures will impact learning. And it's important to recognize this situation is new to everyone and is something that we have never done before. So we are trying to find the right balance between ensuring learning continues for students and not overwhelming families during this difficult time. So I want to assure you that any learning gaps as a result of COVID-19 will be addressed and students will be able to progress to the next grade level.